All right, it is top of the hour, and let's go ahead and get going.
Thank you.
And if anybody else joins, they can watch the video. So I am recording this for everybody. All right. So yeah, before we begin, make sure everybody mute your phones, if you would, please. If you do have a question, there is a chat window, and we've got people monitoring that. We'll have a Q&A session at the end, so we'll open it up at that. As I mentioned, please go to this link here to sign in. And as I already mentioned, we'll record this. All right, so a couple things to go through today. I'm not going to read this, but this is the agenda. Couple things that I do want to kind of key in on are some things like talk about the Hall of Fame, NUA, mobile app that Rob actually was discussing a little bit earlier. So let's jump right into it. So first thing I want to do is turn it over to Mr. Tony Tucci to kick us off with his opening remarks. Tony?
Good morning, everybody. I am out here in the chilly 16-degree weather playing paramedic today. Getting ready to watch some individuals decide that they want to go jump in a lake for some ungodly reason. I want to welcome you guys to a great 2022 season. There's a lot of good things planned, a lot of good things coming up, and a lot of great ideas that are being passed back and forth. So without that further ado, since I do pay attention to these people jumping into a lake, I will be on and muted. But if you need me for anything, please don't hesitate to give me a call or give Brian a call. And I appreciate you guys being all in attendance today.
Thanks, Tony. All right, so I know we have several new presidents as well as several new leagues. So what I wanted to do is just spend a couple moments orienting you to who we are and what we do. First up is at headquarters. The president and CEO of Babe Ruth League is Stephen Tellerson. And he's been around quite a while. In fact, he took over for his father. Tony, how long has he been around?
The Tellersons has been around probably for close to 40 plus years or more.
Yeah. Rob Connor, who's actually on the call with us right now, is the vice president of operations.
He would know better.
Yeah, it's true. He would know better. I know he's on mute.
Yeah, Stephen's been president. He's in his 17th year as president. He took over in 2006. He worked for Babe Ruth, I think, about 8 years prior to being president.
And he did take over for his dad too, right?
Yeah, his dad was president of Babe Ruth League for 25, and Ron goes back to the days of even being an umpire, an NUA member at a World Series. That's actually how Ron got started in the program.
So very, very family oriented. So that's Rob Connor, VP of Operations, and then Olena is our designated helper, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. At the national level, we've got Robert Faraday, who is the National Commissioner for Baseball in Cal Ripken, and Jess Cusimano, who is the National Commissioner for Softball. Now, unfortunately, Jess is she's dealing with some medical issues. So Daniela is acting National Commissioner currently. So I'll be working with Daniela specifically around World Series events and so forth. At the regional level, Ralph Errico is the regional commissioner, and Evelyn, Tony, Bill, and myself are assistants. Our role there is to help coordinate and run the regional events, as well as support the states in terms of their rec seasons and kicking off their tournament seasons. And then at the state level in Pennsylvania, as you know, Tony is our state commissioner. He covers Cal Ripken and softball. Incidentally, Ron Winders covers baseball, so the 13 and over. I am the deputy state commissioner with a focus on softball. Chuck and Doug are the assistant state commissioners. Chuck handles Southeast and Doug handles Northwest. Tim Trainer is the state secretary, and unfortunately he is caught up with some weather related things, so he wouldn't be able to join us today. Mark Sheets is our state tournament coordinator. We're going to talk a little bit more about his role later. And then we have some other positions that we are looking to fill. So everybody on this call, if you have any interest, by all means, come talk to us. One area that we want to focus on is some fundraising. We'd like to do some fundraising because I do have some ideas Tony and I have been working on in terms of being able to broadcast state games, particularly games like the Keystone Cup and the 12-year-old All-Star game. Those would be some fun things to broadcast. But just about any of those, rec championship games, opening ceremony games, those kinds of things, is something I'd like to be able to broadcast. I've done a lot of broadcasting with the World Series over the last 3-4 years. And there's a lot involved with it. So it's going to take some fundraising to do that. So those are some areas of focus. I do have a line on someone to help us on the social media and marketing end of things. But I'm not going to limit it just to one person either. The same thing with fundraising. If you're interested, please let us know. And another area that we want to expand on is the Hall of Fame, which we'll talk about a little bit later. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Chuck and let him introduce his district corps volunteers. Chuck?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you're good.
Welcome, everybody, this morning. My name is Chuck Yanishek, for those of you who don't know me. I'm the Southeast Assistant State Commissioner, and I have districts 1 through 6. And you can see the names listed below. Fred Staggerwell down in District 1, which is generally Delaware County. Marv Overton is our District 2 Commissioner, which is basically kind of Glenside and up along the northwest part of Philadelphia. District 3 Commissioner is Christina Wood, who's handling Lower Bucks County and far eastern Montgomery County. I think there's a league or so in there. Jim Rittenhouse, our new District 4 Commissioner, and he's handling basically Upper Bucks and eastern Montgomery County. Anthony Maruska is the District 5 Commissioner. He's basically Southern Delco and Chester County. And Jared Houck is our District 6 Commissioner. He handles Bucks County, Upper Montgomery County, and a little bit of Bucks, a little bit of everything he has, that's for certain. Anything that you need from your district commissioner, please reach out to them. You can reach out to me as well. We're here to support all the leagues and all your efforts. I'd like to welcome a new league into the fold, the Oxford Keystone Baseball down in I guess that's Lower Chester County, Lancaster County. They'll be playing out of District 5. So welcome that group in. If we can do anything for everybody, please let us know. Pass it back over to Doug.
Doug, you're on mute.
Hey, I just want to ask a question, Chuck.
You're breaking up, Tony.
Doug, you're on mute, bud.
All right, sorry, I had to go let my dog in. He was barking the door. Well, Tony, when you're back, just interrupt. All right, so for the northwest side, District 7, we have Ryan McNeil. District 7 is down near the Norristown, King of Prussia area and so forth. Very strong district. District 8, which is mostly Adams County. We have Randy Sloniker. District 9, Mike Mack has taken that over, and I believe that's mostly like the Berks County area. District 10, our commissioner is Mike Benini. District 10 is the greater Harrisburg area. District 11 is Tim Higgins. And I believe that's more up towards the Scranton and points east of that, all the way to the border of New York. We don't have a District 12 for now. More on that later. District 13, Josh Snook. Josh's area is, I guess, the central part of the state. Center County, Snyder County, Juniata County, County. Then we have Matt Dingus, District 14. Now, Matt is involved right now with forming a Ripken program, a league out there in the Pittsburgh area. So that's where District 14 is kind of located. Now, this is all subject to change after I get an idea on team counts and registrations. There may be some changes this year that we're working on. For example, last year, one district only had a couple teams enter the Ripken Trail at only a few age groups. So in order to provide meaningful district tournaments, we may be combining. We may also be splitting some things off. So it's a very fluid situation right now. So, you know, it's a little different here or out towards once you get through a tunnel on the turnpike, things are very spread out. And I'm trying to come up with a way that those folks can have a meaningful district tournament and not just have one team or two teams without a chance to play anybody at the district level. So that's where we're at. Like I said, it is fluid. We have no District 12 for now as of January 29th, 2022. That might be changing here in the next couple months before we get into tournament season. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. So real quick, you know, I just want to reiterate what Babe Ruth League offers. There are 4 different divisions, and I know most of us here are Cal Ripken only or Cal Ripken softball, but there are others. You know, obviously, as I mentioned with Robert Faraday, there is a baseball division, 13 to 18. And we also have a Bambino program. This is like a challenger program for, you know, children with challenges, children with disabilities and so forth. And that's a very popular program, you know, in a lot of different leagues and a lot of different districts. So in terms of the ability to expand, if you have the means, if you have that 60-90 field, for example, there are programs to expand. So just be aware of that. And if you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out to myself, Tony, or one of the other commissioners. We can certainly assist with that. Just so everybody is aware, we do have websites that we try. We're all volunteers here, so try being the operative word, to update as often as possible. PABabeRuth.com is sort of a culmination of all of those programs, including the Challenger program or the Bambino. And we try to update that from time to time. Specific to Cal Ripken, there is a PACalRipken.com portal, which is tied into the that league line, or not league line, sports engine or sports sign up, site. And again, anything there around, your rec leagues, around your tournament trails, the tournament dates are all going to be located on those websites. We also maintain a Facebook presence, PA Babe Ruth Cal Ripken, and there's also a Twitter feed, PA_Babe Ruth. All of your district commissioner contact information is on there as well as the state staff.
Brian, if I could just interject, since I've been with you trying to, grow the social media.
Yeah.
Please share our Facebook and Twitter pages on your league websites, so that will really help us grow that, so people can like it or follow. I know last year during tournament season, we tried our best to get pictures up of various tournament champions and so forth. People like to see that and share that, but the Facebook page has and Twitter pages have a lot of room to grow. So I'm asking the presidents that are here to share that with your organizations, your parents, on your social media, so we can grow that presence. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. All right, I'm not going to say too much about this. It's pretty self-evident at this point, but we have to be at least cognizant, aware, and understanding of what the pandemic is how it's impacting our leagues. It's been a challenge for some. It's been easy going for others. A lot of that is geographically dictated. And all I can say is be flexible. We've done things. Obviously, 2020 was a challenging year. We didn't have any tournaments. Some leagues had a modified season. Other leagues didn't have anything. 2021, we saw some semblance of a season. But even with that, there were, restrictions around numbers at the park. We did things like, we did away with skills and drills competitions and opening ceremonies at tournaments. We ended up not doing the All-Star game last year, that kind of stuff. So remain vigilant. My philosophy personally is that we don't want our kids to be sedentary. We want them out there in the outdoors, in the fresh air, getting exercise, having fun, being with their friends. And that's what this is all about. And that's, and Rob, I don't know if you or Tony want to say anything else about that, but as far as I'm concerned, 2022 is full speed ahead. Okay. For those of you that use the H&K insurance through Babe Ruth League, you've got 2 days until your coverage ends. So just as a general rule of thumb, please renew with at least one team from your major divisions so that your coverage doesn't lapse. We know that you don't know how many teams that you might be chartering for 2022, and that's fine. Just get something on the books. That way you're covered, your board is covered, your league evaluations are covered, any kind of early workouts are covered. So just a reminder on that. I think it was around 2017 or 2018, the Safe Sports Act was passed. And the key to that was the protection of our young players. And obviously Babe Ruth being a national organization falls into that. Babe Ruth is working with a company called NCSI along with Sports Sign Up, and they've developed a comprehensive background check. It's one of the most comprehensive checks in the nation. And they found, I think it's over 400 about volunteer applications that have come back with some finding. And, including somebody that was, they served time for manslaughter down in Florida, right? And he moved to Michigan and was cleared because nothing came back in the state clearance. And even with that, it only went back 5 years. So, this program that the Babe Ruth has is very comprehensive. And I know we enacted, it started last year and went very well across the country. And that same is going to apply for 2022 as well. Rob, I don't know if you want to say anything else. You're probably plowing right now, but that's okay.
That's okay, Brian. I was just going to say that just to give everybody a little bit of background on the numbers for the 2021 season, we had just over 43,000 background check screens that were completed. And of the 43,000, 199 individuals were actually failed. So the background check program is working. It is the most extensive background check screen of any national youth baseball, softball program. But we also do recognize that there are county government or local municipalities that are going to put their own plans in place for local leagues. If you do have those types of requirements locally, we just ask that you contact us at headquarters. You would contact me. I'll work with you to document the program that you have and issue a written waiver after we review the criteria and stuff. But it is certainly something that you really want to pay attention to in this day and age. And I can tell you that, we even had a league in Pennsylvania this past year where we had to take a little bit of a deeper dive on an individual who apparently had some connections to have some things expunged. And NCSI was great with investigating it. And as the whole process worked, we were able to actually help that league and take the pressure off of the local league from having to be the bad guy. The individual, was upset at Babe Ruth headquarters for being the ones that actually failed them. So I know that particular league president was appreciative at us stepping in and being able to help from behind the scenes. So if you have any questions, you're unsure of the process, there is a website, safe.baberuthleague.org. And Brian, I'm sure we'll give out my email, but I'm willing to help any of the league presidents out there with anything that you need on background checks or abuse prevention training.
Thanks, Rob. All right, rule changes. There's not that many changes, but there's one in particular I want to make sure we clarify. A lot of these rules were just changes in the wording or removal of things that were obsolete. But the one in particular is number 3, around tournament pitching rules for 7 and 8 year olds. So the no pitcher is allowed to pitch in more than 6 innings in a day or a total of 6 innings in 2 consecutive days. If a pitcher pitches 6 innings in a day, the pitcher must have 1 calendar day of rest, or 6 innings in 2 consecutive days, pitcher must have 1 calendar day of rest. The questions that we're getting is, does this mean that the 2 innings per game is out the door? No, because this only applies to rule number 4A of 1105. The rule about 2 innings max per game is rule 1104. So as far as my interpretation of it goes, and Rob, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that would not apply. It's still two innings per game.
Actually, Bryce did lift the 2-game minimum or maximum on that rule change. Robert, certainly this is in his wheelhouse now. So, he would be a great resource for leagues to reach out to, but it does lift where the player is able to pitch more than 2 in a game. And one of the reasons for the rule change was based on feedback that we were getting is that a lot of teams were struggling with, getting 2-3 pitchers, per game to be able to go out and play. So this was to be able to lift that game restriction portion of it.
Interesting. Okay, so I missed that interpretation, so I'm glad you clarified that.
Okay. The rest of it, you're on the money.
So anything else you want to comment on there, Rob, with as far as rule changes go?
No, I'm enjoying not being a national commissioner anymore.
I know, right?
Moving over to the business side, but obviously, if any of the leagues have any issues at all, Robert has been with Babe Ruth League. I'm almost positive over 30 years now. He's an excellent resource with baseball rules. He's always available to be able to try to help out. And myself or Daniela will be filling in the short term, for Jess, and we'll be able to help you out with anything on the softball side. So, if you don't want to ask questions in the Zoom portion of the meeting, we're at the office 9 to 5. Reach out to us. We'll answer either over the phone or on email. And that's why we're there. We're there to help you guys with anything that you need for the season.
Thanks, Rob. There is one other comment on the rule changes I want to talk about, and that's the first one, about active participating. And the intent for this rule is so that, let's say your 12-year-old team has won districts and they're moving on to states. And somewhere between districts and states, somebody got hurt. And your 11-year-old team didn't get out of districts. So the idea is now that the 11-year-old district team, quote unquote, is out of the tournament trail, you could take an 11-year-old and move up to your 12U team to replace that injured individual. Same thing with coaches. Let's say the 12-year-old coach, assistant coach, got called to service in the military, or had to go take a trip for work unexpectedly. That 11-year-old coach would be able to join that 12U roster if needed. But the key to that is you can't have one coach coaching 2 teams simultaneously. All right. So as we were mentioning earlier, a couple of years ago, Babe Ruth League started this program called the Designated Helper. It is a program for it's so that the leagues have a contact at headquarters that they can lean on and rely on for administrative type assistance, like dealing with roster questions or payment questions, insurance questions, whatever it might be. So in the state of Pennsylvania, our assigned designated helper is Alina Phelps, and there's her contact information there. So the idea is you as a league president or as a duly representative of your league, you would be able to reach out to Alina with, like I said, questions about rosters or chartering, insurance, whatever the case may be, because chances are, reaching out to Tony or me or Chuck or Doug about insurance questions or roster questions, we're just going to say, yeah, you need to call headquarters on that one. So Alina is your first point of contact. If you call into the 800 number and Alina just is otherwise preoccupied, busy, then any one of the DHs are able to assist. But like I said, Alina is our targeted representative. There was a question that came in about the rules about replacing coaches and players. Does that apply to softball too? And yes, it does. That's across the board. Okay. When we get into the tournament trail time, leading up to it, there's a lot of work that we do at the district and state level to prepare for those, aside from just finding a host and so forth. One of the biggest challenges that we have is organizing the brackets for the state tournaments. And the key to this is knowing what leagues are sending what teams. So what we're asking is that you work with your district commissioner and let that commissioner know how many teams you are sending into the district tournament. Because when it comes to filling spots for the state tournament, obviously we take the district champion and the district runner-up. That's a done deal. And we take the host team as well. So if the host team is the district runner-up, for example, then the third place team of that district, gets the spot because the host will already have that automatic bid. But there's generally 2 or 3 invite spots that we will fill. And what we would like to do is, if we have a district that has 6 teams in the tournament trail versus a district that only has 3 or 4 teams in the tournament trail, we try to divvy those bids to the district that has a larger pool of teams. Now we also take into consideration which districts have had those invite bids at the state level previously. So we do try to just to share the love a little bit, but knowing who's coming is really important for us. Also, because Mark Sheets, who's our tournament coordinator, he's a school teacher, so he's got time. Particularly once the school year ends, to really get it in there and get those brackets built. So if we know by the 15th of May, that'll give us 4 weeks to build the brackets out. And the value to that is once the district, once the district placements are set, then those district teams that move on to the state tournament will know who they're playing and when they're playing. As soon as they get their district trophy, they're gonna see where they fit. So your assistance on that, getting us that information by the 15th of May, would be very appreciative. All right, now,
Brian, just to jump in on that.
Yeah,
it's gonna come in on the next couple of slides, but that may, when we're working on these, the state tournaments and establishing the dates and the district tournaments, you're going to see that the calendar always works backwards in the next couple of slides. So the earlier we get the information, such as this May 15th, on how many teams you have, the easier it's going to be for us to set schedules going forward. So we're not at the last minute trying to wedge this stuff in. So, we encourage all of the leagues to let your district commissioner know if you're going to be participating at a specific age level, that you're going to be sending a team. It just helps us out tremendously. The earlier we get the information, the better. So thanks.
So I put this slide in because I want everyone to understand the intent of the district and state, particularly state and regional tournaments. District tournaments are generally easy to conduct because the teams are generally close enough to one another where you're not dealing with hotel stays or anything like that. When you get to the state regional tournaments and into the World Series, people have to travel. So we try to balance the number of days required to stay versus the number of games we can get in safely for the players. And we don't want to, extend the tournaments any longer than they need to. Because we understand that, just like us volunteers, parents have jobs and things to do. So and having those hotel stays are costly. So that being said, we can't control Mother Nature, and if we have to extend a tournament a day or two because of weather, we do our best to get games in, but we can't control what we can't control. So I just throwing that out there. When you're talking to your parents about your travel teams, please make that one of your topics of conversation, to just set the expectations that we're not here to cause any undue financial stress on them. All right. The World Series dates and locations are posted. And if you go to PA Babe Ruth or PA Cal Ripken, I just basically cut and pasted these right from there. But like the World Series does have their own websites, crworldseries.com and for Cal Ripken, and SB worldseries.com for softball. I believe those are they're all linked on our website anyway. Now the softball World Series and the 9U, the 8U, the 11U, those are all invitational tournaments. Obviously, the regional champions get the bids to those, but if it's something that you would like to participate in, particularly like, if you have a really good 11U team and you want to make a run for the World Series, the 11U World Series winner will get an automatic bid for the next year's 12U World Series. Same thing with the 9s and 8s. If you win a 9U tournament, for example, then you will get a bid for that next year's 10U World Series. So we use these as a pre-qualifier, if you will. So that's something to think of when you're making your plans. The regional tournaments have been posted as well for both Cal Ripken and softball. As you can see, the softball regionals are pretty much Bucks County this year. The 16-18 tournament is likely going to go to Vineland. We're trying to finalize that. And right now, we do not have a host for 1260. So if any 1260 team is interested in hosting that, let me know, let Tony know. We can get a hold of Ralph. As you can see, Mara is going to be hosting the 10U for Pennsylvania. So with the state tournament, there's a couple things I want to talk about before we get into dates and locations. And I know the assistant commissioners have got, they're going to be filling this in here today, hopefully.
Back, but he played offense sometimes.
I want to talk about these things over here.
What's that, buddy?
These are helmet logos, helmet decals. And they are about 1.5 inches in diameter. And we have started giving these out during the state tournaments. And Ralph has actually embraced it and has started giving them out at the regional tournaments as well. We started with softball, doing the softball first at all ages. And then we added the 12-year-old tournament for Cal Ripken with these game MVP helmet logos. The idea behind this is when you play in a pool play game, the coaching staff will pick a player from the opposing team that, did something significant, whether, hit the game-winning home run or, the catcher threw out, 3 guys trying to steal, pitcher threw a no-hitter, something significant, the third baseman, leaped over the fence to catch a foul ball, whatever the dramatic thing was, or the significant thing, kid went 4 for 4, whatever made that player stand out. It's a way for us to recognize the hustle and the excellent sportsmanship and playmanship for those players. And this year we want to do it at all levels. We want to get all the age groups involved in this philosophy. So what will happen is when you go to the coaches meetings at the start of the tournament, you'll be handed 3 or 4 of these stickers, depending on how usually have 3 pool play games. You're going to get handed those stickers either at the coaches meeting, or they may just have them at the scorers table during the game. But the idea is your coaches will be able to recognize someone, and particularly at the 12U where we have that all-star game, this will help us select those all-star members, right? Not that it's necessarily a prerequisite, but it's a good indicator of who would be eligible for that all-star game. Now, as far as the state tournaments go, Chuck or Doug, are we missing any hosts?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So I can announce the Southeast host leagues, but there's one that's still open, and it's probably one of the most important age groups is the 10U. We are still looking for a host for the 10-year-old Southeast Pennsylvania state tournament. Remember, this is the last year that those kids are going to be playing at 46-60. So this is a very important age group. We'd like to get this tied together, in the next week or so. So, whoever the host may be can start making arrangements. So if you can please either reach out to me, reach out to one of your district commissioners for your league to be a host over that, 4th of July weekend. I know that's a difficult weekend, but as we were just going through the calendar, everything kind of works backwards. We are looking for a host for the Southeast 10-year-olds. Now, the awards to the other leagues are going to be announced today, so I'll just continue and kick it off with the 8-year-old tournament will be hosted by Pennsbury. They did a very nice job last year, and we've re-awarded that. The 9-year-olds will be hosted by Boyertown, and thanks to Jared and all the work he does up there. The 11-year-olds will be at Warrington. Dan Mers handling those duties out there. And the 12-year-old tournament will be held at Springfield in Delaware County. Brian Coleman is the district, the tournament director, local tournament director for Springfield. So thanks to everybody that applied for a hosting opportunity. Again, the 10-year-olds are still open, and we look forward to a good tournament trail season. And as Brian has in this slide here, the All-Star and the Keystone Cup games are still to be determined. So because of the location in the Northwest, but we still have a little bit of time to work that out. So if anybody has any questions, just please drop them into this chat room or get in touch with me directly.
Doug, do you want to talk about the Northwest?
Yeah, so the 12U, that's been awarded to Methacton Audubon. 11U has been awarded to Kimmerton. 10U has been awarded to Upper Island. 9U has been awarded to Redland. And 8U is still open. I do have a couple programs that are interested. We haven't made a decision on that. Just waiting for one organization to get back to me before I can make a final decision on that. Just so you know, we did not have multiple teams or leagues request any of these age groups. So just so you know, I mean, the opportunity for next year may be there for your leagues if they want to host. It wasn't a situation where I had to choose between whatever 3 teams to do 10U or 3 leagues to do 10U or so forth. So we'll next year again, we'll get that information out to the district commissioners about filling out a host request. It is on our website, so you can always go there and find it. Yeah, really, 8U is the only group where I may have some choice to make, a flip of a coin, so to speak.
Yeah, and to that, one of the barriers that's been in place for hosts has been the costs. Particularly wherever your league might be located, it seems to be that there's some disparity between the ability to at least break even. Last year, if you hosted a 16-team tournament, you collected $400 from each team, and 300 of that went to your cost of umpires and baseballs and so forth, and 100 of that went to the state, to me, because I provide at the state tournament, I provide the medals, the banners, the plaques, the helmet stickers, all that stuff. We know that the cost of umpires, we know that the cost of baseballs are going up. So this year, rather than taking $100 per, of the 400, the host will pay the state $1,000 instead of $1,600. And the tournament fees went up to, I believe we said $475. Is that what we agreed on, guys?
Yeah, it sounds right.
Yeah, that
Yes,
sounds
that's
right.
right.
And that offset will help the hosts recoup their money for balls and umpires. So, hopefully that will draw a little bit more willingness to host, because now the opportunity to at least break even, if not make a little extra, particularly if on snack bar and stuff like that, should be aligned now. Chuck or Doug, did we come up with any Ironman hosts yet, or are we still working on that?
No, I didn't see anyone apply for it yet. I'm sure, hopefully, maybe we can go back to, I think Hilltop always does a great job with that, and whoever else did it last year. So if you guys are on here and you hosted Ironman, they are open. and we would love to have you apply, so we can get those commitments.
Yeah, guys, it's Fred. Hilltop's definitely interested again, so I'll give you a shout this week after the call.
Thanks, Fred. Softball
You do a
state
great
tournament.
job.
The softball state tournament, 10U will be at Springford, 12U will be at Upper Marion. I have asked Mike to consider taking the 14s as well. We'll still got to work that out. And Mike, I'll get a hold of you at some point to talk about that. But I am looking for an 8U host for the state tournament. So anybody that might be interested in that, please reach out to me. Were there any questions that came in the chat at all? Chuck, Doug, Tony?
Yeah, let me address one did come across about working backwards, and in the chat room came across, and you're right. July 4th is a tremendous hurdle, but as we were saying about working backwards, you really have to work this stuff backwards, but it's a squeeze. It's a squeeze between trying to get the state tournament completed, and then you have the districts. But the problem is how late the rec leagues go, and the recreation league trying to get through their playoffs and their championships is, and heaven forbid, Brian had it on the slide, Mother Nature is undefeated. So it's really tough to try and, if we were to move the July 4th a week earlier, well, then that pushes districts another week earlier. That, we're already like June 24th. Now you're going to push that back to Father's Day. Many of these big leagues aren't through their playoffs, and the further you push it back, it just doesn't work. We've talked about it a lot at the state level, and the even the national level or the regional level. We've brought it to Ralph's attention that it's very difficult to get the recreation leagues done in time to get a district tournament going, and then eventually to the state tournament. And this is the one thing I will say here is, most of your league does not play on the tournament trail. 80% of your rec league is focused on your recreational season, and that's what we want to be so successful. We want you to have a very vibrant and successful recreation league, because that's the part of your community you're really working on. It's great having district and state tournaments and having a tournament trail team, but we do have to respect the recreation leagues getting through their entire season, so all those kids get to participate as long as possible. So that's about where we stand with
yeah,
the dates.
and to add to the mix, you have to look at it from a national level. We do backward planning from the World Series. Well, the World Series used to be a little later in the season. The problem is a good portion of the southern part of this country, they go back to school the second week of August. It's not like us up here where we go back around Labor Day. So that's why these World Series events are moved up so much. You're up in Maine, for example, you're not even starting your rec program until May because the snow hasn't cleared. So it's one of those constant battles and balances that we have to try to manage. I love my July 4th weekend. I got a pool, I got a grill. I hate having to schedule tournaments on July 4th. So the fact that we had to this year, that something's up. All right. A few years ago, we started a Hall of Fame. And, the idea was to honor organizations and individuals that have played an important role in their communities and their leagues. And I want to make sure that all of the leagues understand that this is not something that necessarily has to be for like a district commissioner or a state commissioner to be honored, and I'll tell you that this year we have an individual being recognized that volunteered for 20 plus years at the local league level running their Bambino Challenger program, right? For the majority of the people on this call, you probably don't even know who this person is, but the idea is we want to recognize, that individual or that organization that has contributed significantly to that local league level. And this is one of the reasons why I would like to get somebody that might be interested in taking the role as curator for this. That person would be the person to work with the nominees or the nominator to build the bio, to understand the background, to improve the website. We do have a website. It's something I do on the side. But if we have the means to, improve that and make it look better, I'm all for it. And, part of this is also just ordering the plaque and being there for the recognition, because it's important for us to realize and recognize, it does take a village, and we want to thank and recognize those that are part of that. Okay. If you're not aware, Babe Ruth has a National Umpire Association, and by rule, tournament games need to be umpired by someone who is NUA certified. We encourage it at the rec level as well, but we also understand that rec programs have they might work with an assigner or whatever. Understand that a National Umpire Association umpire, it is a recognized program under Babe Ruth and is covered under Babe Ruth for insurance. They also have what they call the jump program. And I really want to key in on this one because, listen, nobody's fooling anybody. A lot of those umpires that are out there are older, probably should have retired a long time ago. We need to build from the bottom. And this jump program, the junior umpire program, is a way to do that. So if you have an older teen that you'd like to nurture and develop, please take a look at what's coming with this jump program. And I know Rob has done a lot of work on both the NUA and the jump program. And Rob, since you're on the call, if you want to say a few words on it, by all means.
Yeah, so the NUA program, an umpire is able to be certified for one level of play for 65. The other level, as far as, one being baseball or softball. If they're baseball, softball, it is 85. And then the jump program actually is for anybody who is 17 years of age or younger. They're eligible. They receive a discounted membership. Their membership is $55 for both, $35 for one. They still have access to everything else that the NUA members get. And the other thing that the NUA members also get as part of their membership, the regular NUA, they also get a supplemental insurance policy. So if they do go out and umpire other non-affiliated Babe Ruth programs and games, they do have a supplemental insurance that will carry with them as part of umpiring in the NUA. So it's a really good program. We do have new marks. We are in the process of changing these. Brian actually put in the new logos. one of the nice things that about the NUA look this year is no longer if you are baseball and softball, do you have to get baseball and softball NUA patches? Actually, one patch actually will end up doing both. So we kind of changed the look and feel, and we got some more surprises that are coming out later in the calendar year for the NUA members.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, and if I could just jump in on this, and it is dynamite program for you leagues that have the upper levels that have a Babe Ruth league associated, or even any other league that's going beyond the 12-year-olds. There's an opportunity to kind of get some of those players who maybe aren't travel players that are in your older rec league, like in that 13 to 15, or if you're fortunate enough to have a 16 to 18, but to get them involved, because we need to have a farm system of umpires. And this is a good way for these teenagers to not only still participate in the game beyond their playing years, they can make some good money. You're still involved in the community, and it's a good way to breathe some life into some of these umpiring organizations. And it's just like a lot of things. Those folks are just getting older, and they need to go to the eye doctor more. At least if we can get some young eyes on the field, and we train them properly, we'll have a lot better experience up and down with having a good farm system of umpires. So just a thought for you league presidents.
And that leads right into Rob's wheelhouse with the World Series. It's an opportunity also, once they join the NUA, we pull umpires for the World Series out of that NUA pool. And I can tell you, we've had umpires from Pennsylvania. If you guys know Alan Impink, he went down 2 years ago for the softball and had an absolute blast. So it's a good time down there. So spread that word around as well. All right. Next thing I want to talk about is I was teetering between bringing it up and keeping my mouth shut, but I'm really excited about this, partly because I have my hand in it, and Rob actually brought it up this morning prior to the call. We have outsourced to a development firm the creation of a mobile app for Babe Ruth, and the main focus for this is going to be a digital rule book. Now, the idea is we'll still have the the paper copy, but I'm an IT guy. I live on my phone, and there's no getting around it. So the plan is going to be to have a digitized PDF-like rule book available, which you'll be able to search digitally. When you charter today, when you charter a league, you get one rule book for every team that you charter, plus one rule book for the league. So if you charter, 9 teams at your league, 9 plus 1, 10, you get 10. What'll happen is you will get an activation code that follows suit. So if you charter 9 teams, you'll get an activation code that has 10 activations on it. So the mobile app itself will be free to download, but in order to get to the rule book section of it, you will need to activate that license. So the idea is you get, if you are authorized 10 licenses, you'll get an activation code for 10. You can purchase additional copies of that if you wish to. You can do that at the time of charter. You'll be able to do that throughout the course of the season. But beyond just the rule book, some of the ideas that we have for this is like for example, an NUA community forum. So if you're designated as an NUA member, then those umpires would be able to access a community forum that they can use to do rule interpretations or ask questions and have their own internal personal growth opportunities. We want to do things like have video playlists, right, which can also be used for rule interpretations, where we can, demonstrate what the difference is between obstruction and interference, right? Those kinds of things. We would be able to, recognize our sponsors and provide digital coupons, right? Like Dick's is one of our sponsors. Well, you can just go in with the Babe Ruth mobile app, and from time to time you could have a digital coupon from Dick's show up right on your phone. We're also looking at a pitch count tracker tool, where anybody, parent, assistant coach, brother, sister, you name it, teammate, would be able to just go in and, just like a digital clicker, or, keep track of balls and strikes and pitch counts. And also it'll give us the ability to do push notifications, right? So headquarters would be able to send out alerts and updates to not just the league, but also to parents and players. So that is what's coming. And just yesterday, we signed the contract, the proposal, and issued our first payment to this development firm. The goal is to have it out by June. We'll see what the timeline says, but we hope to have it in time for the tournament trail. I'm excited about it. I know I appreciate Rob's support in getting this done, because I think it's a good thing. Chuck, any questions that came through on that, or Doug?
It was just the only question really came up through as a estimated release date, but like you said, you're hoping for a June timeline. So hopefully that.
We unfortunately it's not going to be ready for the rec season. And even if it's ready for the fall, it's one of those things where we don't want to rush it. We want to make sure it's useful and viable before we push it out to the masses. But by me making this a little bit public, at least for Pennsylvania, I know at the very least we're going to use Pennsylvania as a test bed. So maybe we get early access to a beta. So if I come to you and say, hey, would you be interested in trialing this for us? I'll be coordinating that as part of this program. But also by making it public, it now puts me on the hot seat to make sure I follow through and get this done. So, but the good news is I got a lot of support from headquarters on this. I'll be working with John. So specifically, John is the IT technology director for headquarters. And what's nice is the plan is we're going to actually tie this right into the same login as what you have on your management for Babe Ruth. If you have a Babe Ruth website login, it's going to be the same login for the mobile app, so you don't have to remember multiple logins. All right, with that,
just to maybe just make a comment here, Brian and Rob. Programs like this, the mobile app, or programs like the Ironman and the like, and everything that Brian and Tony and the rest of the state board, we try to come up with new innovations, and we're very thankful to Rob and the national support that we get, where they encourage us to try different things, to do different things. And this is one of the things that I think separates us from from Little League, that we want to expand and move this forward as best we can. And I think programs like this really help out a lot. And I know that there's other states that are taking on the Ironman structured to get more kids to play more ball throughout the summer. So, we do try to come up with innovative ways to make this better all across the board for not only your tournament trail teams, but your rec leagues. So, just wanted to give Rob a thank you for helping to support these programs that we come up with, and one of the rewards that we get in these programs is on those Invitational World Series. We're fortunate that we kind of get first look at those opportunities to participate at the invitational level. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention on how we look at things at the state level, not only looking up towards tournament trail and national, but also looking back at the rec league and how important that is.
Thanks, Chuck. And I'll tell you, you just made me think of something that I forgot to mention earlier. The Ironman tournament is something that Tony and I came up with a few years ago, as you know, and it's starting to get legs. New Jersey in 2022 is going to be running their own version of the Ironman B tournament. And I've already laid the groundwork for 2023 to possibly do a Mid-Atlantic regional Ironman tournament. So this is going to be, an opportunity for those young players to have another round and go beyond just an Ironman at the state level. I'm really looking forward to that. It's been one of my little pet projects now for a couple of years, and I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping that New York follows suit and even expand it even further. One of the advantages of me being on the regional board is I get a couple times a year. I get to get in front of the rest of those states, and to that, and I'll also let you know that Tony and I will be involved again in the World Series. Tony goes down every year and helps the setup and tear down and placement of the broadcast, the equipment and so forth. And this year, for the second year in a row, I will be the tournament director at the 8-year-old machine pitch tournament in Ocala, Florida. So that's, so if you're an umpire that might be interested in 8U machine pitch, let me know. I'll pass your name along to Rob.
Brian, there was a question in the chat. Is 8U machine pitch available for all districts? Obviously, as far as the state tournament trail, that is not machine pitch. However, I would certainly say that if a district wants to host a B tournament, which uses machine pitch, they certainly can do that. But the tournament trail 8U tournament is not machine pitch. And if you, I can go on to the next chat question, but Brian or Tony, anybody want to comment on that any further?
Yeah, go ahead. What's next? Yeah, well, and yeah, to that point, Bud, I mean, if anybody wants to participate in the machine pitch World Series, that is an invitational. Go ahead, Rob.
Just along those lines about the 8-year-olds, our program is, broken up in 8 regions across the country. The Mid-Atlantic is obviously known as one of the regions that does player pitch at 8U. The player pitch World Series is an invitational as well, and that is located in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, which is just over the bridge from Philadelphia. So that is an option for 8-year-old teams, that if you are looking for a player pitch option that you're accustomed to here in the Mid-Atlantic, that event is open to Pennsylvania teams to join. And I'll let you in on a little thing we're working on. since we're on this call here, we are meeting with the Battleship New Jersey, which is located in Camden County, just over the river. And we're working on incorporating the Battleship Museum into the World Series events for the players and teams. So hopefully we'll have some more news on that soon. But those of you keep that 8-year-old Cherry Hill event in mind for the player pitch side.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I know the last time I saw on the thing, it was still a to be determined. So I'm glad Cherry Hill's stepping up again, doing that. And real quick before we jump into more questions, I do want to thank Rob for being on the call today. It's nice to have the vice president of Babe Ruth be joining us on our state call. So Rob, thank you so much. You certainly add a lot of commentary and color, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem, Brian.
Brian, the next question, are you ready to go into open discussion? I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. The next topic that came up on the chat has to do with 8U rules and how things changed last year. Some districts, for example, allowed stealing at home. Others did not. And then when they got to the state level, the decision was made that it was open bases. So, I mean, personally, I think 8U should not be stealing home, but the rules as written by National do allow that. I think what we've done in the past is we've allowed districts to make their own determination on how they wanted to handle those rules. Now, and I think what happened last year when they got to states, there was an open discussion about it, and the decision was made just to stick with what's in the official rule book, which was allowing stealing home in states.
Yeah, and that decision, Doug, if I can add in that, I spoke to Ralph, and the decision at the regional level was that it's open baseball in that regard. So the collective agreement was then to go ahead and do it. It's one of those where it's a double-edged sword, because we all know that you walk a kid, probably 3 pitches later, a kid's scoring. And that's why we decided to do it based on majority rule of what the coaches wanted to do, because at the end of the day, it really only impacts one team going on the regionals, right? Yeah. But at the same time, you might as well use that tournament to be ready to go to regionals. And I think that was what the collective decision was for that.
And just to be frank about it, we have not been consistent on that, no doubt. And I think that's due to, the fact that just from an opinion, I think a lot of us do believe that stealing home at 8U is silly, probably not safe either. So it kind of came to a head last year where there was enough inconsistencies at the district level that it became an open discussion at the state level. And when I think it was Mara that hosted it. And again, I wasn't at that meeting. Brian, I think you were.
I was,
but this decision was we just need to stick to the rule book until there's a rule book change. We should be consistent with what's in the official rule book.
So bear with me. I want to share with you something that I'm working on. I've got it here in my Google Drive somewhere.
Hey, Rob, are you still there?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. I mean, because you're involved on the national level, I think that is a discussion that I think a lot of people would like to see, about with 8U, whether it should be open bases or not, stealing home. I don't know if you're involved in those discussions or not, but I just think the point I'm making to everybody here is that those decisions, that we don't make the rules. It's ultimately up to, we have to just follow the rule book.
Yeah, I guess what would be a good topic for everybody on this is the fact that the way the policy works as far as rule change is that if there are local leagues or the state, wants to see a particular rule changed or a series of rules changed, what they do is they document it, and they will work through the chain of command, working their way to in the Mid-Atlantic to Ralph and to Robert Faraday, who's the national commissioner. And those rule changes, once they get to those levels, Ralph and Robert are on the rules committee. So you have the 8 regional commissioners as well as the national commissioner. And what they'll do is they'll discuss in September of each year, after the season's over, what has come in and the volume in which the rule has been talked about. Is it something that only one person wrote in and talked about, or one state, or is it something that's taken a little bit more info? At that particular point, the rules committee could take it to go get surveyed, in which at headquarters we would run that survey to all the league presidents and the commissioners asking for feedback, and then the rule would be taken to the board of directors in November. And if the board was to take it up and adopt the rule change, most times in November, those rules, anything that they vote on and approve, would be for the following season. So things that they'll vote on in November 2022 would be in the rule book in 24, unless they stipulate otherwise. But 9 times out of 10, anything that they vote on is typically 1 year out. But that's how it gets done. So if there's enough consensus here in Pennsylvania for there to be that type of rule change, then you want to work that through the chain of command to Ralph, and that will eventually work its way to the rules committee.
Rob, this is Noelle from Pennsbury. We hosted that 8U state tournament last year, and we'll host again this year. So I was on those calls, as was, a couple that I see on the phone here. I think given that that's the process for changing the rules, and I'm not sure that anybody's advocating for the rules for that division to be changed, I think the near-term solution is that it is very important to make sure that those rules or anything along those lines of what's going to be in play at regionals or in play at states needs to be communicated to the district leaders to share with their teams, because we can't have folks getting to states and just learning of rules. So it's, if those are the rules and there's flexibility at districts or flexibility with the leagues, the district heads need to make sure that they're communicating those types of rules in advance of anybody getting past districts, to avoid the surprise of it, so that those travel teams or those district teams have a chance to practice and not learn about it the Monday before the tournament begins. So that has to be a short-term solution this year, especially since we are well past the recommending any rules be changed.
It's a great point. That's what happens when we deviate from the rule book. I will, for my part, from headquarters with the World Series, at least put everybody on notice that if you do plan on being a part of the World Series in Cherry Hill for the 8-year-old 8-year-old player pitch series, we will follow the rule book, which will have the base stealing in it. But discussions with Tony, Brian at the state, Ralph, I'll leave that to all of you to work that out if you're going to be doing something different at that particular age group. But I think the point is that, the biggest thing right now is I agree totally with this point, is the fact that if you are going to make changes, it's better to get that out now so that the teams are prepared and it's not a surprise if all of a sudden, the coach has been practicing stealing for the last 6 months and now all of a sudden can't steal, or vice versa. So
I don't honestly, I don't think we should deviate, just all play with the same set of rules regardless.
Yep.
I mean, it's very easy. It's in the rule book. Have a document that's signed by every coach and the umpires, which is most important, so they know what the hell's going on. And just don't deviate from the rules. You want to change a rule, takes 2 years, fine. At that point, then we'll change. And this way they'll practice that. But if whatever you come up with, just make it standardized throughout the whole thing. Everyone is aware between districts and states, World Series, what have you, and we'll all play with those rules. And we're not all always going to agree on what rule that we like or we don't like, but just make it consistent and we're fine.
Yeah, thanks, Guy. And a lot of times what happens is, there's confusion and, for lack of a better term, the good old boy network where, this coach just, they were at an invitational tournament the week before and there were no stealing. And that just kind of sits in their head sometimes. And, those things kind of play out. One of the things I'm working on, and I'm hoping to get this into that mobile app, is a matrix like this, where what are the most common, like when I sit in those coaches meetings, these are usually the things that are hit on by the umpire in charge and questions that come from the coaches. So, what I've been doing over the years is just keeping track of, based on the rule book, what is the rule, right? Can you lead in 8U? No, you can't. Can I steal? Yeah, as soon as it crosses the plate. So, these are the things that would make it very simple, a little snapshot, quick matrix. When we pull into a tournament, boom, all right, we're 9U, drop third strikes. Yep. Okay. Infield fly. Nope. Okay. And this is all straight out of the rule book, unless something's changed.
Brian, I think you got to fix 10U though. That's also crosses plate, stealing bases. You don't steal on the pitch. You steal when you cross it.
Yeah, I don't know why that was. I would know that, but you get the idea. Like this is the kind of stuff that I'm going to try to put together for the for the umpires in charge. And I'll make sure the district commissioners, get access to this as well. And Noel, to that point, I think what we're going to do is sometime after Memorial Day, Doug and Chuck, maybe we should just have a full district commissioner meeting one night and go through it.
I think that we need to get the idea that we're going to play by the rule book kind of established. We, if you could, Brian, I'm not sure if you're looking at the chat room here, but a lot of things about, hey, we need to just decide on what we're doing. And, I say, I've always been of the camp, follow the rule book, because then there's no interpretation, right? So
it's not even a matter of interpretation. It's a matter of
not interpretation, but ambiguity. Well, we're not stealing here, but we are stealing there.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. We need to erase that, because each one of these teams are starting to prepare now for their entire travel season or their entire season period, rec league season. It's up to the rec leagues, you league presidents to decide if you're doing 8-year-olds stealing home within your own rec league. We don't have, we're not going to have jurisdiction over that, but we do have jurisdiction over district and state tournaments, which then lead to the regional tournaments and any invitational. And believe me, 8-year-old rules have been the bane of a lot of our existences for the last several years, because it's whether it was a pitching rule, whether it was drop third strikes, whether it was stealing home, you don't want the game taken forever, but you also want to consider the safety of the players. So, in my personal opinion, and this is the way I'd like to see it across the districts that I, that are within my realm, is I say follow the rule book. Then no one is going to question why are you doing it this way, because then we get to just point up up to this rule book that's written and everybody can understand. If it comes to an interpretation of the rule book, that's where
Yep.
We as district, state, regional commissioners come into play.
And I think that, this point is actually something that I'll take to Rob offline, but, for as many times as we have discussions on rules and as many, even the questions are about rules in the chat, it is baffling to me how exceedingly hard it is to actually obtain access to the rules. We are getting some rule books and, in this age of, things being online, it is hard to even know what the rules are at times. And there have been rules that have been changed and clarified, but the actual rule books oftentimes don't even reflect those changes. And so, something needs to change at national. I think if it's about paying for rule books or whatever, I'm willing to pay for, extra chartering fees, just so the ambiguity of rules can kind of be taken off the table, because we need to get access to those in a more seamless way than having to pay for additional rule books.
Ergo, the mobile app. I'm hoping that will alleviate some of those, issues that you just brought up, like availability and access.
Brian, I'm just going to scroll back here through the chat. There was a lot of comments. I think they've been answered about the rules. So let me just make sure. I think we're all on the same page. Going to have to follow the rules. Let's see. A new organization added District 5 and another organization no longer in the operation. Will the district boundaries be revisited? We are currently losing players in the area due to lack of coverage. So that's a question from someone with East Brandywine. What district is that?
It's District 5.
Okay. I mean,
And yeah, and with the folks down at Oxford coming online, yes, there's certainly consideration of redrawing some districts and the like, and we had a commissioners meeting in October, November, where this was one of the topics, and we're constantly evaluating what districts, geographically, which districts make sense, especially that week of district play where you're trying to get something done right after work, and it's an hour drive or it's just something ridiculous. We continually try to figure out what's going to be most efficient, and yes, we're doing our best to figure out what works best at the for as far as district boundaries. So I'm not going to say it's fluid, but we continue to try to do it, and it also takes a little bit of time when you're doing this, so that everybody kind of knows where they stand before the season starts. So I believe this fall we're going to probably take a very close look at it. We don't want to do anything and start disrupting the current districts, but it's certainly top of mind.
One comment actually I had put in my head to clarify during the open discussion, going back to the rule change that would allow a replacement player who for someone that maybe got injured or on vacation. So just to clarify, and again, correct me if I'm misinterpreting anything, but the purpose of that rule really is to replace a player, not just to stack your team because your 11U team got eliminated and you want to add an extra arm for the 12Us in their state tournament. It's just to allow flexibility. I think it becomes a bigger issue at the regional level. You have a lot of teams that are missing players when they get to regionals because they didn't expect to get to regionals, and you have vacations or you may have an injury. I know we hosted 9U regionals last year, and a guy brought down what he could from Upper New York, and they got slaughtered. It was unfortunate. They were missing a few of their key players, and certainly, perhaps if he could have reached down and grabbed a couple 8-year-olds to make the trip, that may have made their experience a little bit better. But that the way I read it, that's the purpose of the rule change. It is to just allow that flexibility to replace a player on your roster who is otherwise not available, not just to add players on the roster.
Yeah, and that's a good.
Hey, it's Tony.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, you cannot add a player. It is so your 12U team has 12 spots on it. Just because you have 13, 14, and 15, if there are no names there, you can't add that 11U player to spot 13, 14, and 15.
Right.
It's replacing a player. That's what it is in its truest sense of the word. Is there going to be some ambiguity? Doug's a lawyer, and Doug will argue the great points of this rule, and that's what it is. But he is hitting the finest points. This is what it was designed for. Your vacation kids, they can't make it. You lose a kid to an injury. Okay. You can replace those players. But remember, you can't just add to those blank spots on the roster.
How do we ensure that the 12 kids that are on a 12U roster actually played a game instead of just being a name filler and a picture filler?
Again, there's no way to police that. Sorry, hold on.
No worries. Yeah, and that's
that's the integrity of it. You're hoping that everyone's going to be integral and being ethical and moral, but we know that that's not going to happen. Unfortunately, there's going to be that team out there that doesn't.
That's why we have books, because all these leagues, a lot of these leagues do it, and that's the case. Sorry, Tony, and you know how I get sometimes frustrated with some of this stuff, because we have a lot of it around here. But we don't collect books anymore. I know, that's my point.
But we don't, because there's no gameplay requirement anymore.
Yeah, but if you host a district tournament and we make those hosting teams have books, we can at least verify that those kids actually played in a district tournament. Yeah, that should be your official roster going into states.
If I have 15 kids listed on my roster, okay, and only 12 show up, 3 were on vacation and couldn't make it this weekend, I'm taking you at your word that that's the truth. That's what it should be. We know that that's not going to happen, but I'm hoping that that's not what happens. But unfortunately, we know it's going to. But again, yes, we'll see what the roster is. But once you submit your roster, that's your roster. You can't add to it. You can only add and replace.
Look, I understand what you guys, in the spirit of this, I actually kind of like a little bit. So I understand where you're going and how to help out so you don't get slaughtered and things happen. I totally get it. You're trying to help things. But would it help in the way of doing this, that for this type of situation where, your 13th, 14th, and 15th kid are 3 kids from that 11U team below you, and those are the ones that you can take, and you get their sign off that they're going to be available just in case. So at least they're listed somewhere. So yeah, these are the 3, one of these 3 or whatever, we would take these guys in case something happened like this. So they're actually listed there, because I understand what you're trying to do. And I applaud you for trying to keep things very competitive. I really do. I'm just trying to keep this, like you said, with the integrity of the game and what we're trying to do. Having them listed might actually help.
The problem is with that is okay, now I listed those 3 kids, and now 2 of them got hurt in the 11U tournament.
I get it, but you can't mitigate
there's
it.
always the devil advocate. You just have to hopefully take it. Everyone's going to do the right thing for the right reason.
Okay.
We hope. But that's what it's for. And again, I asked the question when we were at the regional meeting and all that how can we monitor this to see? I'd like to know from headquarters going forward. Say, all right, previously our rosters were 12 names, on average 12 names. Since this rule has changed, has the roster size gone up in average to look like it's okay? Now we're getting 15 names on a roster where we used to get 12, and we can take that historical look at it and say, okay, yeah, this is what's happening now. We've got a lot of teams that are adding those players and they're not showing. And remember, you still have to have their waivers signed in your book.
All right. I mean, look, that's why we're having this open discussion, just to kind of get some thoughts out here, and I appreciate you being willing to do that as well.
And Tony's right. It really comes down to intent, right? I mean, having coached my son's tournament trail, it was hard enough getting playing time with 12. I'm not going to just arbitrarily make 15 just to stack a team and then have to go explain to those other 3 parents why their kid's sitting on the bench, most of the time. I personally just would not do it. But that doesn't mean others won't. And unfortunately, that is, what we're dealing with.
They don't carry 15. It's just there just in case.
Yeah, that's what we do at the higher levels, where we have a roster of 20, but you never bring 20 to a game. It's just if we have kids out on tournaments, not there. And I think
so you know how you can tell something is more competitive than something else?
Down here,
so when we go to meetings, right? Does anyone ever talk about the rule book?
You guys,
and rostering and only having 12 kids because you can't develop talent, because if your teams are over the size of 12, you don't get enough playing time for all your players. And then you've got to explain to parents why their childs aren't developing.
This is the district meeting. Sarah said Dustin was on it.
Guys, please mute yourself. Not talking.
Welcoming OKVB.
Ultimately, my point was, if we get people in the practice of listing 15, you have your 12 that you're taking to tournament. You have 15 kids rostered, and those 3 kids could be B team kids, could be kids from the 11U. They're not playing with you all the time, but that way, when you have an injury or something like that, you have somebody to fill in right away.
And sorry, I jumped back into my office now, I'm sorry. What the intent with that rule when they made that rule is exactly how Doug explained it.
Right.
How you do your rosters is entirely up to you for that. My concern is, when I voiced my concerns about the rule, was I'd like to know what the average roster for a tournament team was prior to this rule change from last year and the years before, and what it is now. Because again, remember, you can't put a person into a blank space. You can only put them in a place where there was a player before. And it's going to take some time to take a look at. We have to take it for its face value. And again, you're going to take a kid from a team or another from your league that you're replacing. And again, it might not even be from an 11-year-old team. It could be from one of your rec kids that you're replacing a kid from. But again, understanding that it's a work in progress, and we're going to look at it. And I'm going to make sure they look at it, because I want to see how it goes. But we have to make sure that everyone's playing at face value and try and do as much we can. So
I'll put this out there for you, Tony, just to know. I mean, we have teams in our district, and they've been doing it for 10 years, or have to roster 12 kids on tournament teams. That's the rule. But every single year at every single division, they only ever show up with 11. So it's the same deal, but it's not policed, and we have to do a better job of figuring out how to do that.
Again, there's nothing in the rule book that says they can't do that. That's the thing. There's nothing in the rule book that says if you roster 12 and show up with 11. There's nothing in there.
So we have to roster 12, but we can show up with 10 kids at every tournament, every district tournament if we want. We can tell those 2 kids, you're not really on the team, but we're rostering you.
That's on you. That's on your league, but yes, that's the rule. You have to roster 12.
Right. So that's the same deal with this. You can roster 15, and then we can replace them at any point in time. So I'm putting 3 kids on my roster that I have no intent of ever playing. So when my 11s get eliminated, I can put them on my 12s.
That's not the intent of it, but
That's the rule.
But I want to see tracked to see how it goes.
Gotcha. I understand. I'm telling you how that goes with the 12s and 11s. So you're telling us it's within the rules. So we know teams are going to do it. So that's just something you guys need to look at, please.
So moving on from that.
Well, my one last question with that is, how are we handling that in the system with entering the rosters in the system for
So-
replacing a player?
You would do that through ad drop, Mike, through your designated helper, and going into the system and doing an ad drop through there.
All right, so they're adding in an ad drop, because the one issue we have is, because we tried something like this before when we had an injury with moving up somebody from a B team, but the B team was doing the tournament trail and I had registered them in the system, and in the system you can't be a part of two different
They can manually override it at headquarters.
Okay.
That's why we have our designated helper.
We'll find ways to cheat. No, they've changed the
All right,
rules.
I just want to make sure
I
that,
mean, if you have half a team get COVID, you really do need to be able to swap people out. That's
Right.
not fair.
I'm good.
Thanks.
All right, I'm just gonna go back again. I want to make sure I don't miss anything in the chat. Let's go back through here. Will league presidents have input when district alignment conversations occur? I certainly think they should. I think your district commissioners should be talking to the presidents and having those conversations, and then talk with Chuck and I about what we're looking to do.
Yeah, Doug, to that point, just and if I could just jump in on that.
Yeah.
So when we do schedule this meeting amongst district commissioners specifically for district alignment, realignment, what we'll do is we'll set that schedule far enough in advance, and then each of the district commissioners will be encouraged to reach out to the league presidents and say, look, we're having this meeting regarding district alignment. Do you have input? I think that is going to probably be the best way to kind of capture this back from all the league presidents, or each of the leagues, as opposed to being a shotgun type of effort, or we may do it as a shotgun type effort. Please send any district alignment information that you want addressed to your district commissioner by email. But I think that's how we will kind of reverse engineer this in order to get all of your input. Is just like everything else, here's the date we're going to have the meetings, here's the comment period going back to your district commissioner. So again, we're building this as we're going along, so your patience and your input is greatly appreciated.
Okay, yes, we do have, once presidents upload their rosters, we do have access to each league's registration number. Someone had asked that question. I think some of these questions have been answered already, so I want to skip over them. Okay, I think, and just speak up if I at least got everything covered that was in the chat. So if anybody, and Brian, it's your meeting, I'll just go ahead and let anybody speak up if they want to discuss anything else. I'm done looking at the chat for now. Looks like we got everything covered there.
I know there was one on 10-year-olds playing 50-70. I think, I don't know where that stands, but I think for 10-year-olds, 46-60 is appropriate. I think the 11s and 12s are probably the best slotted for that. So hope that answers Scott's question there.
I know one, I heard a discussion earlier about boundaries and so forth. And I get, dozens of boundary questions every year. So, just my personal take on it. the boundaries, the league boundaries generally don't change. But as it was just described to me and explained to me by headquarters, the boundaries are something that are supposed to be revisited every year. And we really don't, because other than, getting new leagues in, and I'll tell you, this is one of the reasons why we're having this conversation around realignment. We did a realignment about 4 years ago, and at the time, when my son first started playing Cal Ripken, there was about 55 leagues in the state of Pennsylvania, and back then, the state tournaments were 10-team tournaments. We're now at a point, and my son's a freshman in college now. So we're at a point now where we went from, 55 leagues, 10 years ago, I think last year we were at 99 leagues. So we just about doubled, which is why we went from a 10 field tournament to a 16-team field tournament. But it also, opens up the questions for interpretation around the district alignments and so forth. And as those new leagues come on board, we're always faced with potential boundary crossover and so forth. So we do really need to relook at boundaries in that regard. The general rule of thumb is a player in your league must live in your league boundary, or go attend school in your league boundary, right? That's the general rule. Then there's the gray area rule, where what if a kid doesn't live in any boundary? The rule of thumb there is that he plays at the closest league, and you can't leapfrog across a boundary to get to another league boundary, right? So, those things happen, and they're usually one-offs. What we try to do is we have Google Maps, and I'll try to bring one up to show you.
Brian, while you're doing that, this is where it's important for the district commissioners to scrutinize those situations, because they're
Right.
local and they know the landscape and where someone resides versus where the program that they want to play. Now, with that being said, what Brian stated is correct. But that only affects the tournament trail. If someone wants to leapfrog and play for another organization only for purposes of the rec season, we don't really have any control of that. Just that play will not be eligible for the tournament trail.
Yeah, I mean, the problem there, and I had this conversation with another league president earlier this month. When you start poaching players, even if it's only for rec, you're taking away a player from that neighboring league that, may seem innocent, but you're doing a disservice to that other league. And, so that's where we got to be careful. And you, as a president, when you sign off on those rosters, you're putting your name down that you've done your due diligence to ensure that the player that you are rostering is within your boundary, or within the construct of the rule of, like if the guy lives over here, for example, right, then if he lives like right here, like in along this, like the 152 area, then chances are he's going to play over here, right? If he's driving from here to play down over here, that kind of goes against the leapfrog rule, right? Now, if he goes to school over here, then fine, he can go play here. But that's the kind of stuff that we all have to be conscientious of. If I got a kid that lives over here but wants to play over here because he plays soccer with kids over here, that's not the rule, right? He's got to play over here.
Yeah, and Brian, what I meant, and you're absolutely right, I just meant to say that as far as what we can do to enforce anything, the only thing we can really do is if that kid is leapfrogging, as far as enforcement, the only thing we can say is, hey, he's not eligible to play the tournament trail. I'm not at all encouraging that that leagues should be taking players from, leapfrogging from another, organization over another organization. And I think kids, I've always said this, if kids can't eat lunch together at lunchtime, they shouldn't be playing rec baseball together. This isn't travel AAU baseball. But yeah, that's all what I meant to say, Brian, is just that's all we can do, is we can say, hey, he leapfrogged. You're trying to poach that player and stack a team. He's not eligible to play on the tournament trail.
And what we try to do, and I know Chuck, you kind of figure this piece out. When we have these mapped out, and then let's say this league here sends us their tournament roster, we can actually import the addresses of that roster into Google Maps, and if they fall outside, if their address falls outside of the grade in area, then we know that there's something wrong.
Yeah, we know that we need to question it.
Yep.
Okay, because you're not going to be able to tell where
that's great.
Exactly, you're not going to be able to tell where the kid goes to school, but it's the situations where they're leapfrogging where it really comes in, from those gray areas. So, yeah, it's we do our best to keep an eye on it. And the district commissioners, when they get their rosters, are encouraged to look at it and kind of be the enforcement. Again, this is just for the tournament trail. If you got a kid who wants to play rec in your league, and that's all he's interested in, I'm not going to say encourage poaching them, but you are taking away from another league, but they will not be eligible to play on your tournament trail team, especially if they are boundaries that have been established for a long time. That's another issue there.
We have leagues though that don't have any travel teams, maybe only one. So when they have kids, are we telling these kids, sorry, you can't play?
No, Dan, you know what? I saw your question here in the chat, and there is a topic that I did want to bring up. So when it comes to the tournament trail, especially with leagues that kind of are struggling to put enough players together, we would encourage geographically close leagues to maybe band together, on a temporary basis to put a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old team together, because maybe there's only 4 kids on one and 6 or 7 on the other. Well, you can certainly have these 2 teams merged temporarily, until you can get your numbers back up, and this allows more kids to play on the tournament trail. And we would work through the rostering if leagues want to do this, have a temporary kind of merger at an age level, so that your kids that want to play on the tournament trail, even though there's not enough kids on your team, maybe you pick up some kids from another league in order that you can get it put together. Now, this is not a stacking method. We just want more kids to play more ball, and here's an opportunity, because you got this 4, 5, 6 kids that are really tournament worthy, but you can't have enough to get that full team together. And I think to your question is, see what district, so, Dan, this is your question. Babe Ruth Cal Ripken should be able to see the registration numbers of each league, so they can see what district teams are struggling, so they not have, so that having access to the numbers. I think it's a very good idea, and it would be helpful if the league presidents would just filter up back through your district commissioner that you're having problem filling a tournament trail team at a certain age level. that should be one of your first resources, because they then can take a look at the registration numbers from neighboring leagues, which is your easiest way to merge together temporarily. And if not, maybe it's in another adjoining district that it isn't too much of a problem to kind of pair leagues up. So does that help, Dan?
There is precedence to that. Just so you know, like last year, Springford and Central Perk, they combined an 8U team because neither one of them had the full numbers that they needed, and they formed it and called it Spring Valley, right? And if I'm not mistaken, I think that team did pretty well. I know they made it to the semifinal round of the 8U states. So when those situations arise, right, work with your district commissioner. They worked with headquarters, got the rostering process done. You know, it at the end of the day, one of the leagues would just take ownership of the roster just for administrative purposes. But, you know, that was a nice joint effort on their part to get those kids playing. We highly encourage that.
Well, go ahead. I thought I heard someone buzz in. No, okay.
Well, we've been going for about 2 hours now.
Well,
I appreciate
kind of wanted to.
I mean, this is something that it's going to be scrutinized. I mean, it's not combine two leagues to make a great team. I mean, this was last year we were talking about some 8-year-olds that didn't have a place to play, and you know, we're not talking about just to use a couple strong, I know, programs down your way, Kimmerton and Methacton combining, and just for the sake of having, you know, ultimately that's not what we're talking about there. We have some very, very small programs that, you know, literally only have two teams on a rec level. And I think that's what we're trying to see if there's ways we can make that work so those kids can play.
With the small teams, they're chewing up boundaries that, you know, other teams once had. So if one team's struggling to field a tournament team, then why can't they, you know, take kids from another league?
That's combining their organizations and what they really should do. And
well, that's probably a big stretch, Doug. I mean, you know, combining organizations because you're weak at one age level. I think to Dan's point,
I wasn't really talking about one age level. I just meant like there are some very small leagues that only have 1 or 2 rec teams that maybe they'd be better off to charter together, so that maybe they have a, you know, group of 4 teams to choose from when they're trying to make a make a tournament trail team.
Yeah, that's a
different conversation.
That's a different conversation. But I think to answer to Dan's point, being able to get players from another league that either is also struggling, it's not a bad idea. I mean, it's, we would encourage it.
I think this could be a huge rabbit hole, and I think where it's going to be an impact is, I get what you're saying. You don't want to combine leagues. Obviously, no one wants that. If there's a certain age group that needs help, I totally get it. But I think everyone within that district, the presidents and everyone should be made aware and kind of chat about what's going on. 1 and 2, I think what happens is once the season's over, those parents, everyone's trying to continue to build their program. Those parents are like, okay, well, do I play at this league, or I send my son or daughter to this league? Of which league do I go to? Is the coach of this now combined team at this other league, and I was at League B, so I'm just going to ship my over there, and then, oh, Johnny's friends are going to follow him there. Does that have an impact? Is that an impact that we're worried about? I
think you're maybe, Scott, I think you're maybe playing it a little bit. You're extrapolating a little bit too far. First of all,
I try to take a future look at things. Sorry.
I got you, and I understand. I understand your question, but we're not going to sanction. We're trying to keep the rec leagues together, right?
Right.
But you've got these handful of kids that you don't have enough at that age level to do it, and we're trying to pair it up so more kids can play more ball. It's the district commissioner is going to have to endorse it, who's supposed to be the advocate for all the leagues under their district. Me as an assistant state commissioner, I'm going to have to bless it before our designated helper can do the rostering overrides that are necessary. So it's not like all you got to do is just send it to us and it gets rubber stamped. We want to see the circumstances surrounding why you're putting teams together. It's not we're trying to avoid anything nefarious from going on. So that's why we're trying to do this under a having some control over it by approving it as you're going up the ladder. Does that make sense?
No, I totally understand. Like I said, I try to have like, a 2 or 3 year future look on whatever I do today for my league, just to make sure it's sustainable. So I'm just thinking that far ahead. So I apologize.
No, this is that's an open discussion, but also, a family taking their player to another league, if they're moving outside of your boundaries, then they can't play tournament trail ball for that other league. So, that's the idea of setting up league boundaries and addresses. And there's a question in here about enforcing a school letter where a child's playing outside of their league. I think that was really what the question was. But you as a league president are signing off on your submissions of your tournament rosters. So you as the league president would be held responsible, for signing off on where this kid lives or go to school, and then the oversight then goes to the district commissioner, and then eventually up to me, to confirm it. And if there is an instance where the district commissioner says, hey, there's a problem, he's going to reach out to you, or if I take a look at it and I say, and I have a question on why is this kid on a roster when he doesn't fall within the boundaries, then we have a chain of command that's going to go back to the league president and say, where does this kid go to school? You've signed off that he is eligible from a rules perspective.
All righty. Thanks, Chuck.
So,
Thanks.
Yeah. And
Brian.
yeah, and I do want to be conscientious of time. So with that, I do want to thank you all for attending today and also just being involved and being a volunteer in your leagues. You guys are the groundbreaking impact for these kids. You're right on the front lines of that. So, thank you for what you do. And, if there's anything that Tony, Chuck, Tim, Doug, Mark, me, or any of the district commissioners can do to help you, we're here to do that. And make sure, please make sure, let us know when your opening ceremonies are going to be. With if we can make it, if it's able to get there with our schedule, we would love just to come out and hang out and show our support. So let us know when you plan you're doing your opening ceremonies, and we'll try to make our best effort to get there. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I just want to wish everybody a very safe spring season.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.